Okay, we're live now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Everson. Good afternoon, Commissioners. We will call this Caddo Parish regular meeting agenda, virtual, of course, to order. It's October the 22nd at 3:31 p.m. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please. I'm sorry,
Commissioner
roll call.
Hopkins,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Young,
Here.
Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Cawthorn. Commissioner Cawthorn, I think you're muted. Commissioner Cawthorn, can you? I didn't hear you, but I see you. Commissioner Gage Watts,
Present.
Commissioner Talaferro. It looks like there's somebody connecting right now. That may be him, or
Yes, I'm present.
who? Oh, thank you, Commissioner Atkins,
Present.
Commissioner Chavez,
Present.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Here.
Commissioner Epperson.
Present.
Okay, I'm counting 8 present and 4 out of the chamber at the moment. Although I do see somebody logging in right now, but that is a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Commissioners, we'll have our invocation led by Commissioner Atkins, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Epperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for our many blessings. Thank you for all the many things that we do not always take time to thank you for. We're very grateful for the kindness and generosity that you provide to us and all the citizens in Caddo Parish. Please look after those in need in these troubling times, and please look after our first responders as they are constantly looking after us and helping to serve in your light. Please give us grace and mercy and faith, and help us be kind and patient and generous. In your name we pray, amen.
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 Let's all stand, please. Ask that military and veterans remember to stand at hand to brow salute. All others, hand across your heart. Say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Everson, I don't have any agenda additions. Do you?
We do, yes. We do have one agenda addition today. It's a proposed resolution 71 of 2020. It's a resolution to relocate the polling place for precincts 44 and 111 from the Shreveport Job Corps Center to 2800 West the Shreveport Job Corps Center located at 2800 West College Street, Shreveport, Louisiana 71109, to Bilberry Park Community Center, 1902 Alabama Street, in Shreveport, Louisiana 71109, and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Actually,
Move to expand the agenda.
Who was that? Commissioner Hopkins?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Thank you. And we got a second by Commissioner Watts. Commissioner Hopkins, did you want to speak on that motion?
I think it's self-explanatory.
And thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this precinct is actually being moved out of my district. And it's being moved to Billsbury, which is right basically across the street to Commissioner Johnson's district at Billsbury Park. Job Corps Center. The Job Corps Center is a pretty much secured place now. So, I know I was called and asked. I'm sure Commissioner Johnson was also called and asked if we could relocate this facility to the Billsbury Park, which is a very good facility. It's a facility that when I was on the city council, built a new recreational center there, so it should be very accommodating. Plus, we added to it later on. But anyway, just wanted to say that that it is being moved to a proper location where we can have voting activity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell, for updating us. I know, Commissioners, we have to unanimously add this, and it does need to get added to the agenda just because of expediency. Commissioner Burrell, thanks for advising us. You are okay with that? I know Commissioner Johnson is okay with it as well, or Commissioner Epperson. So we can add it to the agenda as long as we have a unanimous vote.
We're good.
Thank you, guys.
Good.
Okay. Mr. Everson, how do you want to do this? Do you want to allow for people to call in right now and open the floor up if people would like to speak for or against and offer them the phone number?
Yeah, let's do that. If you want to invite people to, ask for or against, I'll announce the phone number and we'll go from there.
Sure. And to all the citizens watching, the reason for this, if you didn't catch it, the Job Corps Center is federally funded and they are not allowing the voting registration or the voting to take place there this year. So we have to move it to a different location. So we have expedited and the commissioners have agreed upon a new location. Commissioner Burrell spoke about that. So we're going to expand the agenda to add this agenda addition and vote on it. If anyone would like to call in and discuss and voice whether they are for or against this agenda addition, please call in now. Mr. Everson, offer them the number.
That phone number is 318-226-6596. Again, that's 318-226-6596. Does sound like we have a call coming in right now. I'm not sure if it's a commenter or not, but we'll hold just one moment.
Uh-huh.
Was it a call, Deputy Nations, about this agenda addition?
We're still waiting to hear the final on that. Michelle, did you get an answer? I think you're muted if you're.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, hold on 1 second, please.
While we're waiting, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
I just wanted to also note that I'm not sure how we communicate this because people are used to going to that to the Job Corps for so many years. I'm hoping that we are able to get that information out so people won't be confused that is no longer at the Job Corps Center but at Billsbury Park. Matter of fact, at one time it was at Billsbury Park. Is what I remember. Before we started to do construction, should I say rebuilding Billsbury Park. That was when I was on the city council. But I think we relocated it, if I remember the history of it, to Billsbury Park, to Job Corps, but now we're moving it back.
Commissioner, this is Henry Bernstein. Yes, there is a procedure for us to give notice, and that was one of the reasons that we needed to move quickly on this, was so that the voters could be given notice.
Commissioner Burrell?
Yes.
And also, we'll have signs placed at the site, as well as having a parish employee there to direct them to the new site.
Thank you. That would be great because I think there's 2 precincts in that one location, so it's pretty heavily traveled.
Yes, sir. We'll have both signage and manpower on site.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, commissioners, we do have the caller on the line. If you guys want me to go ahead and put him through.
Yes, please.
Okay. Dr. James. Okay, go ahead and state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Will James, District 3. Thank you, commissioners, for this opportunity. Actually wanted to speak in favor of the change. With that, I actually work with a lot of citizens as a tutor and a youth outreach advocate. in the neighborhood of Queensboro, as well as Allen Lake. So with that change, I am in favor of that, and also parking. If we get a huge turnout the way that we did as far as for the early voting cycles and so on, I think parking would be a lot easier for citizens also going over to the Billberry Park. So with that, I'll make it short and sweet. Thank you very much.
I agree with that.
Thank you, Dr. James.
That was all the callers.
It appears to be all the calls that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. We'll go ahead and take roll call vote to expand the agenda and add the agenda addition.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young. Commissioner Young, I didn't hear you. It looks like you're on mute still.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Talaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously to add 71, Resolution 71 to the agenda, and we'll hear that later on in the resolutions section of the agenda. And that brings us to citizens' comments. You want me to go ahead and give that phone number again and see if we have any additional comments?
Yes, please.
We have not, by the way, received any electronic comments for today's meeting.
Nor have I.
I'll give that number out again right now. That number is 226-6596. Again, that's 318-226-6596.
All right, Mr. Everson, let's move along.
All right, that brings us to visitors. We don't have any visitors scheduled today. We can't adopt regular session minutes via teleconference, nor can we adopt special resolutions. So that brings us to communiques and committee reports. Under communiques and committee reports, I'll just mention that's where we have our certificate of teleconference. No action is required, but I do need to bring it to your attention.
All right, Commissioner Epperson, lead us off.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, thankful to all of the medical personnel in the hospitals and clinics, rehabilitation centers, including senior citizens' homes that are taking care of all of our patients that have contracted the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as my condolences go out to all of those that have lost loved ones. And my prayers is that everyone that's recovering will have a speedy and a full recovery. As of today, the United States has 8,312,667 cases of confirmed COVID-19. That's up 63,656 from yesterday. A 7-day total of 417,901. The total deaths in the United States as of today, 221,438. That's up 1,076 from yesterday. Louisiana, the state of Louisiana is 14th in the nation at 181,132. That's up 1,363. 4,923 up within the last 7 days. There are 5,790 deaths, up 18 since yesterday. Caddo Parish is 4th in the state, 9,784 cases. That's up 55 from yesterday. 390 deaths. That's up 2. Also, I wanted to bring to the attention, since we can't do resolutions or proclamations via Zoom, our joint proclamation that we have for the regional governmental bodies recognizing Veterans Day. At this time, I would ask clerk that they would put up the proclamation if they have it on screen. And it reads, whereas millions of Americans have served in the armed forces of the United States during the past century and have made the ultimate sacrifice. And whereas the Caddo Parish Commission, City of Shreveport, Bossier City, the Bossier Parish Police Jury, and DeSoto Parish Police Jury have united together to sponsor an honor ceremony for our local veterans. And whereas we ask all businesses and public entities to post thank you, welcome veteran signs during the week of November 5th through November 11th, recognizing the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who serve and who are still active in the armed forces. And whereas public and private school systems, primary, secondary, higher education institutions are asked to schedule educational programs whereby veterans and military personnel may serve as guest speakers. And of course, we know during the COVID-19, they could be asked to do that virtually. Special recognition to our veterans, and also special recognition, we ask all religious institutions during religious services are encouraged to do so equally. Whereas all citizens of Caddo Parish, Shreveport, Bossier City, Bossier Parish, DeSoto Parish, and the surrounding municipalities are asked to honor our veterans for protecting our American freedoms. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, there will be no parade and honor ceremony this year. However, we are still honoring local veterans through virtual means. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Caddo Parish Commission, the City of Shreveport, Bossier City, Bossier Parish Police Jury, the DeSoto Parish Police Jury, meeting in legal and regular session convened during the month of November, does hereby proclaim November the 5th through the 11th, 2020 as Veteran Celebration Week in Caddo Parish, Shreveport, Bossier City, Bossier Parish, DeSoto Parish, Louisiana, and urges all citizens to join with all governmental entities and in the vicinity to celebrate the 9th anniversary of Veteran Celebration Week, honoring our veterans and their families. Attest Mario Chavez, Caddo Parish Commission, Adrian Perkins, City of Shreveport Mayor, Jimmy Cochran, Bossier Parish Police President, Lowell Walker, City of Bossier Mayor, Reggie C. Rowe, DeSoto Parish Police Jury President, Kenneth R. Epperson Sr., Veteran Celebration Committee Chair. Mr. Clerk, would you post the banners that we are going to do? As I stated, we will not be doing in-person ceremonies and the parade this year. However, we're going to be doing some virtual things. The Veteran Celebration Committee has ordered some flags that we will be displaying in front of the Northwest Louisiana Veterans Home, Barksdale Air Force Base, our parish courthouse, Bossier Parish Courthouse, and Bossier City Hall, as well as the DeSoto Parish public buildings. So those are the banners and the flags that we will have. The top banner, which is in yellow, we're going to do those in flags in the ground, so our veterans that are interred in Northwest Louisiana War Veterans Home will be able to get a good view of those while they are because they're on lockdown now due to the pandemic. We also have some special masks with the insignia Veteran Celebration Committee on it that we will be giving to all of the members of the Northwest Louisiana Veterans Home. And we ask that all businesses and entities will do whatever they can to post those thank you veterans and welcome veterans. There are barbershops that give free haircuts. There are restaurants that give complimentary meals and things of that nature to show the appreciation as to what our veterans have done to provide this nation with the freedoms that we enjoy. And I will come up with further details in a press conference with more articulate and structured details on the events on recognizing our veterans virtually. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Clerk. You pull that down, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Wilson, we received a response from the Secretary of State in reference to clarity on the statute during a public health emergency for the early voting, additional early voting satellite location. Would you elaborate on that response?
Yes, ma'am. I'll be glad to. I sent you all an email yesterday stating the reason that my discussion with former State Representative Thomas Carmody, who was calling me on behalf of the Secretary of State. And they acknowledged the request the second request we made for an emergency location. And I was basically told that because of the timing and the lack of equipment and manpower, it could not be done. And there's no emergency provisions at this time to accommodate our requests. So the Secretary did express his desire to work with us going forward, and perhaps in the first quarter of 2020, help us nail this situation down and come up with some alternative location. And it also, I did express that we did send a copy of the resolution on the 2 sites that the board had selected as perhaps some options. But our discussion advanced beyond that, perhaps maybe a larger venue that could be used, that maybe a government-owned facility that could be used to look at that. But basically, that's what he said, ma'am.
Okay.
And also,
go ahead. Sorry.
And I also had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Joe Salter, who's the chief of the administration, and he acknowledged the fact that he's aware of our request too, and they too are also in discussions with Mr. Dale Silby concerning this matter.
Okay. Thank you so much. We've garnered a lot of attention around this early voting additional site. And as excited as I am, I think it's important for the history to be known as well. We started this conversation in 2016. So I want the citizens to know that Caddo Parish commissioners did not think of this as an afterthought because of the pandemic. This was something that we have been lobbying for and advocating for quite some time. And I think there's a narrative out there. There was a report that came out late last night, early this morning. I heard it again that we had been denied this site because we waited too long to ask for the site. I needed to be very clear that there are 3 separate steps that has to take place, which includes the state legislators. It includes the Secretary of State, and our governor has to sign off on this. We have had a lot of conversations around this. Have we done everything that we need to do as far as urging state legislators to enact another early voting location in Caddo Parish? Yes, we have. And I want everyone to know that these other parishes that you're seeing that has more than 1 location, they did not just get one because of the pandemic. They already had them. I know that there are a plethora of them that had additional locations before the pandemic. Caddo was just left out of the conversation for quite some time. So I think that the conversation should be with state legislators and not with Caddo Parish Commission, even though we made sure that the dollars were there, the funds were allocated if there was an additional early voting satellite location approved. Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you, Commissioner Watts. Thanks for that report, Dr. Wilson.
Very well said.
Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do remember, following up on Stormy, I do specifically remember her proposing an early voting location back in probably 2016, 2017. So that certainly has been an area of passion for hers for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. I will comment that I did go through the early voting process Tuesday, I believe it was, and I was pleased that the lines have moderated to some degree. It took me about 45 minutes to get through the line at about 5:15 in the afternoon. So that's still quite a while, but it's much progress has been made since the first day of early voting. On another matter, I wanted to make sure my colleagues knew that we have an Audit and Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, October 27th at 2 p.m. Mr. Clerk, is that scheduled to be a virtual meeting?
It is.
Okay, so another virtual meeting on Tuesday, October 27th at 2 p.m. for the Audit and Finance Committee. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I just want to, thank Dr. Wilson for his prompt response and following up on Commissioner Gates Watts' request for that early voting location. I want to say thank you to Commissioner Gates Watts, who, as I mentioned on Monday, has kind of been the leading force behind the early voting satellite site for quite some time. And I appreciate the accuracy in which she just laid out the timeline for which we have advocated for an additional site. This is not something that we just started talking about 2 months ago. But what I will also say is I appreciate Attorney Frazier in our absence and providing that information to us on yesterday. A very thorough review of the revised statute that empowers us to be, or empowers specific entities to set up satellite sites. And so she laid it out very clear, and nowhere in the statute does it say that the Caddo Parish Commission. And so I think we ought to applaud Mr. Sibley as well, because when you think about the time that he started and the time in which we find ourselves in January of 2020, he had not even reached his 90-day point of being on the job. And that was even after completing 2 very important statewide elections with the governor. And so I want constituents to know that our job as the Caddo Parish Commission is not to play the blame game. Our goal is to try to work on their behalf to find solutions. And I think, we ought to at least applaud Mr. Sibley for being a man of his word and working with the Caddo Parish Commission, because the statute doesn't even involve us. We didn't have to be involved at any part of the process, but in his interview and up on his selection, he stated that he would work with us to identify a site that he and his team would vet and start the process for finding an early voting location. And so I want to urge patience during this process. I can just think back to all of our forefathers and ancestors who have struggled for the right to vote, and they're using this opportunity to exercise their right to vote. So thank you. And again, thank you for the accuracy in the timeline. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Everson, I see no other commissioners on the board. Move along.
That brings us to the president's report.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Commissioners, I received a notice of public hearing from the Louisiana Department of Transportation that Caddo Parish will have a Zoom meeting update on November the 9th at 9 a.m. I asked our commission clerk to send out a calendar invite, so if you'd like to participate, you can log on. Dr. Wilson, in regards to the house on Wayman, I really appreciate you guys jumping into action and getting their cat issue taken care of. Likewise, Director Clark, thank you for emailing the lady regarding the dog food. I know she is happy. And all the people, the commissioners, the city council, the city workers that worked on the Southfield Drive, Mrs. Boykin's house. It's good to see that coming around. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Talaferro. I know she contacted a lot of people, but it was good to see all hands on deck and her yard getting taken care of. I also want to take this time to wish Mrs. Glover a happy birthday, happy 64th birthday. I think she's one of the most attending citizens in Caddo Parish that watches our meetings. So happy birthday to you today. Commissioners, our very own Commissioner Jackson will be on tonight at KTBS. He doesn't want to take any glory for himself, but I think that's kind of cool. He's going to be doing a debate analysis tonight after the presidential debate. So look for him there. And then lastly, in regards to that, all citizens early voting is still going on. Early voting started on the 16th. It will conclude on the 27th, except for Sunday, October the 25th. And it's from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Make sure you get out there and vote. Lastly, in regards to voting, I do agree, Stormy, thanks for putting that out there. I know I saw a lot of social media traffic with people stating that there was voter suppression going on, and you have been carrying this torch for years. So there's definitely no suppression going on. There's been a lot of work on all the entities that you stated, and next year we should have some great early voting locations. I see Commissioner Jackson's hand back up. I'm done. Commissioner Jackson, you want to get back on the board?
Yes, I just wanted to ask the clerk. That if we could, I know it's been a while since COVID, but I know we had we originally had adopted legislation that provided for master plan implementation updates. If we could put that back on the agenda and just kind of make a note to the clerk to re-include. I think it was every second Thursday that we had that scheduled for us, and make sure that we're up to date on it. Jeff, it was similar to what they do at the council. And if there was no update, they just said no update, but it gave them an opportunity to come down and give us that update.
I will pull that and touch base with you and just make sure we got a good understanding of it, and we'll move forward.
Right.
With it. Thank you.
Okay, and it's like I said, it's just like it was at the council where they came down and did an update if they had one periodically. Appreciate you. Thank you. That's it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Everson, no more commissioners on the board. We'll move along.
And just real quickly, and you mentioned the DOTD invitation, and I will say that my Outlook was being a little funny. So, commissioners, I apologize if you've received that 3 or 4 times, or if you haven't received it yet. But we'll make sure it goes through correctly and get it out to everybody. So let's see, that brings us next to the public hearing on zoning ordinances and cases of which we don't have any today. And our next item is public hearing for ordinances. We have 2 ordinances for public hearing scheduled today.
All right.
Do you want to?
We'll go ahead. Yeah, let's declare them both open on. So I declare public hearings for ordinance on 5985 of 2020. And 5986 of 2020 open. If you'd like to speak either for or against, please call in. Mr. Everson, you can announce the phone number.
It's 318-226-6596. Again, that's 318-226-6596. And while we're waiting for calls to come in, I'll just go ahead and read the titles for reference. It's the public hearing for ordinance number 5985 of 2020 is an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund and the Oil and Gas Fund to provide an appropriation for the community policing project and otherwise provide with respect thereto. And then the public hearing for ordinance number 5986 of 2020 is an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Capital Outlay Fund in the amount of $50,000 to increase appropriation for the Pine Hill Road Bridge and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Any phone calls, Mr. Everson?
We do have a caller on the line. I'm not sure that it is for this, but give me 1 second and I'll find out.
Sure.
Commissioners, I believe it is a caller. I believe it's the gentleman who frequently calls, and he's not calling on this particular subject, but so we may save him for comments later in the meeting.
Let's do that. Let's ask him to call at the bottom of the agenda. I want to get through this, and it's he can actually only speak on this legally, so we'll
Absolutely.
citizen comments.
Absolutely. So other than that, we don't have any calls for this.
Okay, I'll declare a public hearing on ordinance 5985 and 5986 closed. Thank you, Mr. Everson.
Okay, and that brings us to zoning ordinances, of which we have none today for final passage. We do have some ordinances for final passage. The first one being item 14.1, which is ordinance number 5981 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay and the oil and gas fund to provide an appropriation for the construction and improvement of Blanchard water lines that serve unincorporated areas within Caddo Parish and the Bell to Gill water system, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I have.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move to amend ordinance number 5981 of 2020 to change paragraph 2 where it says to appropriate $1.1 million, change it to $990,000 as recommended by the Economic Development Committee, and to approve as amended.
The chair will second that. Commissioner Hopkins, you want to speak on that?
Yes, sir. I'll try to be brief. I have to say this one ordinance in my 30 years being involved with the commission is probably one of the most scrutinized ordinances, and sometimes that's okay.
Second.
We've looked at all of them, and we have an opportunity to make a difference and put good drinking water in North Caddo Parish that will not only draw residential citizens, whether they're from within the parish, but hopefully to get people to come back from East Texas, from Bossier, or from the Soda Parish and lay down roots back in Caddo Parish. We've got a good parish with a lot to go on. And this is an opportunity with I-49 corridor and providing this I'm gonna say upgrade, is because really what we're talking about is an upgrade to increase the lines for both economic development, but also to be part of our master plan as far as water goes. We've talked for years about ensuring that the people of Caddo Parish have good drinking water, and this is one way to do it. It will also, one of the things I forgot when we were talking about all this, it will improve our fire rating in District 7, because we're going to actually be able to put hydrants out in areas that don't have hydrants now. So that should help the citizens and their cost on their fire insurance. And I just ask each and every one of you, I think this is a good project. We have some other projects coming up. I ask you to support this. You know, I know we have 2 projects that were before this, and maybe they didn't perform to date as far as what we would like. But I can tell you one of those projects, we've had a road closed for 2 years, and that slows progress down. But I just ask for your support. I think it's important not only for District 1, but it's important for the parish as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Vice President Johnson, I can see your hand on the board.
He's muted.
Yeah. LBJ, you got your mute on.
Okay. I'd like to make a substitute motion on that same second paragraph to make that dollar figure $714,891.20. And if I get a second, I can explain why.
Second.
Okay. Gentlemen, and Commissioner Lady Watts, I talked to Dr. Ken Ward for quite a while about this particular project. When we first were told about the project, it said that the state was giving Blanchard $3.7 million to do this project. But what that is that based upon projected bids. Well, the bid that came in the lowest came in at $1.4 million. So basically the state portion of their grant is going to be $1.4 million. The upgrades, if you looked at the bid sheet that I sent to everyone yesterday, when you look at bid sheet alternate number 1, the lowest bid that came in was at $162,000. And then on alternate number 2, the lowest bid that came in is $552,848. So looking at those 2 and doing the same thing that the state is doing is basically saying that they're taking the lowest bid. And so we ought to be doing the same thing as taking the lowest bid on the alternate. And doing so, that will come out to the $714,891. In the figure that Commissioner Hopkins mentioned, there is also an engineering study on the alternate that I think that we should not be paying for. And then there is also a plus or minus 5-10% for overcost, which I think that we shouldn't be paying for either. I just think that we should be paying for basically the material and the labor that will be associated with that and nothing else. That's all I have, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Johnson. I see no other commissioners on the board. I'll just make a comment. Well, I see Commissioner Atkins. I was gonna ask though, Commissioner Hopkins, can the job still be accomplished at the 714? Or do you know this information?
I mean, look, when they made this bid, you have a bid that was put out. I guess there were like 5 or 6 different bidders. And so I think they bid each 1 and 2, phase 1 and 2 together. And I think Mr. Johnson may be talking about splitting one company doing one and one doing the other, but that's not the way the bids were written up, I don't believe. So, I mean, I disagree with his
No,
number.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is the lowest bid for the alternate plans equals $714,000. And anything over that, the city of Blanchard should be responsible for, and not us.
Okay. I would just say, Mr. Chairman, that this is not. We have earlier projects that have set precedents, and when you do a project, you do engineering and you do construction, and yeah, none of us like contingencies, but there is always around a 10% contingency involved when you're talking about projects like this. Now, whether the money is spent, whatever's not spent, if we put 990,000 in there and they spend 800,000, the rest of that money goes back to oil and gas, where it should go for other projects, which would include Greenwood, hopefully.
So if and Commissioner Hopkins, you've been doing this for a long time. Does the your substitute motion state up to 990? Is that the way that you're wording it?
That was based on the recommendation from the Economic Development Committee.
Okay. Commissioner Atkins, I see you on the board. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, you and Commissioner Hopkins have just addressed the issue that I wanted to raise. It's an up to 990 number, so that there is a little contingency there. But the up to component means that we don't have to spend up to that total number, and whatever the balance that's remaining would come back to oil and gas.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Hopkins, you're back on the board, or did you just want to speak? Okay. I guess I'll ask Commissioner Johnson, are you okay with the up to 990, or do you want to keep your motion for the set at 714?
I would like to keep it up to the 714,000.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson, you're on the board.
Hello.
There you are. You have the floor, Commissioner Jackson.
So, okay. Yeah, I was just curious, or Dr. Wilson, whomever is the project manager on this, or can explain, is the lower amount, does that jeopardize the agreement that's been put in place with the state?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that, because
no.
We're not managing the project, sir, on this
particular
one.
So I'm saying, I know that is the mayor on? Is Mayor Galamba's on?
No, he's not.
No.
Okay.
But I would ask Mr. Ward, Dr. Ward,
yeah,
because he probably has more knowledge on this project than anyone.
So yes, thank you, Todd. The catch there with that is with the contractor of low bidders bid under the base bid of $1.4 million. The alternates are his alternates, not the other ones supplied by another contractor. So if the 713 or 714 goes through, unless Blanchard says they're willing to pay the difference of that and the 990, then those alternates won't be awarded. They'll go back to the base bid. So unfortunately, we can't pick Wicker to do those alternates. Only the lowest bidder for the base bid, which is ASB Utilities, they would be the one that the contract's going to be signed to. And without the funding, they won't be able to do alternate 1 or 2.
So the lower amount that Todd is proposing is what I'm trying to figure out is, would that jeopardize? Because my understanding is they've got some commitments from the state revolving loan program. Would that jeopardize the project as a whole? The lower, the 9, I think he said what, 990 or something like that.
No, sir. Not the 990 will match it. The 714 will not.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, Ken. Or Dr.
Anytime,
Ward.
anytime. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank
Dr. Ward. That's it for me, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner
Well, I
Jackson.
want a point of clarification on that.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Johnson.
Okay, so Ken, based upon the state's grant, which was supposed to be up to $3.7 million, but now it's going to be at $1.4 million. So that 1.4 is guaranteed to Blanchard, whether they get the upgrade or not.
That is correct.
Okay, so whether the 714 or the 950 is passed, they still will have the 1.4 to do the project.
That is correct. Yes, and that 1.4 will change as they progress with the bigger pipe. So that number will change as pipe is interchanged from an 8-inch line to a 12-inch line, and from a 12-inch line to a 16-inch line. Those numbers will change accordingly, and that's where our numbers kick in, closer to the 990 range than not, based on the low contractor.
All right, and then also in our discussion, we talked about, I guess they're charging on the alternate plan 1 and 2 of opening the ground, which the ground will be open under the initial phase.
That is correct, and that's, you kind of mentioned that earlier in the committee meeting. I've reviewed this plan several times with this bid, and unfortunately, all I have is the bid tab. I don't have the bid itself. And from what I understand is that the unit price per linear foot of pipe, no matter what size, includes digging of the ground. That is correct.
Right, which we shouldn't be paying for because it's already being opened up under the original plan. So they basically coming back and double dipping in a sense.
Yes, that's the way I read it. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so even with the 714, if Blanchard holds them accountable to the original part and then to the alternate part of not charging for the opening of the ground twice, then 714 would possibly work for them.
I couldn't say. I would have to. I think there would have to be some.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
There'd have to be some negotiating back and forth with the low bidder on the contract and with the engineer who drafted it up. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes, I just want to get a clarification from Dr. Ward. And based on his comments, is he's leaning toward us being closer to the 900 or being closer to the 714?
Well, Commissioners, in order to award this contract, we would need to be close to the 990 to award it as it sits now. They wouldn't have enough funding to award alternate 1 and alternate 2 with just $714,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn, for asking that question. That's actually the information that I need to know to make this vote. I see no other commissioners on the board. Henry Bernstein, I see you on there. Attorney Bernstein.
I just wanted to come in and explain something. What Dr. Ward was explaining was that the low bid will have to go to the company that bid the lowest price for the base plus the 2 alternates. Those alternates that they bid are actually higher numbers than 162 and 552. And I think that was what Dr. Ward was trying to explain, was that if you look at the bid tabs, the bid will have to be awarded to the first company And the numbers for their alternates were higher than the alternates from Wicker. But Wicker, you cannot split the bid. You cannot give part of this project to one company and part of it to the other. So the actual company that will get it is the first company in the bid tab, which is ASB Utility, and their price for the whole project is $2.2 million. And that is including the $181,000 and $649,000 for the two alternates. So that is the company that's going to get the bid, assuming that they get the contract, assuming that they meet all the other requirements to sign a contract. So I just want to make that point that that's what I think Dr. Ward was explaining to you.
Thank you, Attorney Bernstein. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, I'm fully aware that the first company, the ASB Utility, will be the one that will be getting the award on the project. What I was just simply saying is we should do just like the state did. The state initially awarded $3.7 million. So when the bid came in at 1.4, that is what the award of their grant would be. And what I'm saying is we should use the same principle, is that if they have a bid that's lower, whether it's with company A, B, C, or D, we should do that. And anything over that, Blanchard should be responsible for the difference. That's what I'm saying. We shouldn't have to pay 100%, the state pay 100%, and then Blanchard pays nothing. There should be some accountability to Blanchard to pay something in this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Everson, I have no one else on the board. We'll go ahead and take a roll call vote on the substitute.
Okay, and this is on Commissioner Johnson's substitute motion that would change the dollar amount that is in the legislation as written now from 1.1 million to 714,891,000. Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
No.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
No.
Commissioner Young.
No.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Gage Watts, I didn't hear your response. Commissioner Talaferro.
No.
Commissioner Atkins.
No.
Commissioner Chavez.
No.
Commissioner Lazarus.
No.
And Commissioner Epperson.
No.
Okay, and I did not hear a response from Commissioner Gage Watts, so I'm going to mark her out of the chamber. And that makes our total that motion fails with, let's see, 3 in support, 1 out of the chamber, and 8 in opposition. And that brings us back to the motion before it, which is a motion to amend the original 1.1 million as written presently to 990,000 as recommended by the Economic Development Commission.
Up to 990.
Up to 990.
All right, roll call vote.
Okay, that's Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
No.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes. Yes on the previous one also.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll change that. And then Commissioner Talaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries with 11 in support and 1 in opposition.
Thank you, commissioners.
And that brings us to 14.2, which is ordinance number 5985 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund and the Oil and Gas Fund to provide an appropriation for the community policing project and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So move.
Got a motion, Commissioner Cawthorn. Who was that second?
Epperson.
Mr. President.
I see your hand. I'll get you right after this motion, Commissioner.
All right.
Commissioner Cawthorn, would you like to speak on that motion?
Yes, we had this before us a couple of weeks ago, and we think it's an excellent project. We're going to work out kind of the details of the particulars of it upon passage. Had conversation with the chief's on board with both the training and safe houses. So as we consider what we're dealing with right now in the city of Shreveport, the parish of Caddo, this is an excellent pilot program for us to put in place for better outcomes for both the citizens of Shreve and the citizens of Caddo Shreveport. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And I've had conversations with Commissioner Cawthorn regarding both of these the ideas, the legislation he's put forth. And I just want to make a friendly amendment on both parts. And as tragic it is, I know that the majority of the crime in Caddo Parish indeed occur within our city limits. And, we're fortunate to have other law enforcement agencies operating within those boundaries of the city and the parish, who often are called upon to assist other agencies during critical circumstances. So, and the Shreveport Police Department is not the only law enforcement organization that would benefit from this proposed training. Therefore, I'd like to propose that we extend the training to the law enforcement agencies within the boundaries of Caddo Parish, such as Vivian, Oil City, CPSO, Southern University, LSU, Centenary, et cetera, which is not a lot of officers if you look at the size of those organizations or those departments. And we provide all of our Caddo law enforcement agencies this unique opportunity for training, to avoid or minimize any kind of tragic outcome. I'm really excited about this training, speaking with the chief and Commissioner Cawthorn. And I think it's definitely necessary. And I think the chief has some things that are going on right now. I'm also proposing, after my conversation with the chief and Commissioner Cawthorn, is that based on the information of the training component, I'd like to increase the initial amount from $50,000 to $82,000. And as explained by the chief, this increase is due to an unforeseen shortfall of previous funding from a local donor, which has left the Shreveport Police Department with an incomplete, basically, I believe, and the chief can correct me, an incomplete training class. But I believe the chief is on the Zoom call, and if with the permission of fellow commissioners and the president, I'd like him to address that shortfall and the reason for the increase in funding. Before I go further.
The rules will have to be suspended.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules to allow for the chief to speak on it if I get a second.
I'll second that. And Mr. Chairman, as the parliamentarian, let me remind Commissioner Taliaferro that he'll need to lead with his motion if he has an alternative motion to make.
You are correct on that.
He can lead with that motion after the chief if the chief is going to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, are you on with us?
I don't see him on the call.
I don't see him either.
Yeah, he may not have made my last conversations with him. He said that he could be on the Zoom call, but I think as probably the other business that we took care of, it might have just not worked with his schedule. So anyway, it was just to have him kind of explain the circumstances that I've just shared with you.
I have Steven's iPad with his hand up. Is that Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to get a understanding. I guess after the motion is made, I'll get back in and try to figure out what is the increase for.
Well, technically we don't have a motion yet.
I said I'll get in after they make that motion.
Okay. Commissioner Epperson, you're on the board, and then if you want,
yes,
Commissioner.
sir.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Epperson.
Okay, I would just like to suggest to Mr. Taliaferro the increase and the expansion of what we're trying to do. If he would just do another standalone ordinance at a subsequent meeting, and we could go forward with this and get an explanation on that additional amount at some point in time when the chief and when it comes up. And, you know, I think that'll serve us well.
I'm amenable to that, Commissioner Everson.
Should that be a substitute motion?
No,
Well,
no,
wait a minute. Point of clarification.
I'm not finished.
That's not a motion on the floor right now.
I'm not finished. I have the floor.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The motion that's on the floor is Mr. Carthon's original motion.
That's
Mr.
correct.
Talafaro wanted to amend, but he elaborated prior to making his motion. So what I'm suggesting to Mr. Talafaro to do a subsequent motion at our ordinance at our next meeting with the additional amount and also the expansion of the rural law enforcement officials. And that way we have a chance to have the chief back forward, and we go ahead and vote with this one. And I think that'll serve us well.
That's your motion?
No, that's a suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner, I saw Talafaro on the board, but he took it back off. Did you want to speak, Commissioner Talafaro?
Yeah, it's just it's a matter of, protocol. I'm kind of lost on where we are supposed to be now. But I mean, I know that after everybody speaks, I mean, I can go ahead and continue with my friendly amendment, or do I need to make a subsequent motion now?
Make a,
you need to make a friendly amendment.
Commissioner Atkins, you want to give a parliamentary procedure on this scenario?
Yes, before Mr. Talafaro uses up his opportunity to speak, if he desires to make a substitute motion, he needs to state, I'd like to make a substitute motion, and then clearly state that substitute motion. He has another alternative, I believe, if I understood Commissioner Epperson correctly, he might want to delay this till 2 weeks and make a substitute motion at that time.
Okay, delay what, Ms. Atkins?
I thought you were, well, I don't want to confuse the matter. I just thought you were saying, Commissioner Epperson, that you were suggesting that perhaps Commissioner Talafaro delay this for 2 weeks.
Yes, his friendly amendment and whatever his changes were, and he let it be a standalone. And
That's
we go
right.
ahead and vote Mr. Carthon's motion. And they will still coalesce at some point in time during implementation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you for the recap, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Talafaro, you still have the floor though, so if you would like to make a motion, please feel free.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a friendly amendment that, based on the conversations that I had with the chief of police, to consider increasing the dollar amount from 50,000 to 82,000, which is, I understand from Chief Raymond, the 32,000 additional is the amount of the actual shortfall that the previous donor had pledged and promised the police department to pay for this training, which at some point that's not going to be possible.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chairman.
Give me one moment. The chair will second that just so we can hear discussions. Okay, now that the motion has been made and a second, Commissioner Talafaro, please speak on that motion, and then I'll get your point of clarification, Commissioner Burrell.
Well, Mr. President, I have spoken on it. Like I say, based on my conversations with the chief today, he gave me the rundown on the shortfall of the $32,000 to complete the necessary training that I believe that they're already in. So that's the reason I voted to, or actually suggested that we increase the $50,000 to the $82,000 is to help them with that shortfall, so they could continue with their already the training that is in progress in the areas that we're concerned about during this during Commissioner Cawthorn's initial proposal.
Gotcha. Okay, Commissioner Burrell, your point of clarification.
My point of clarification is this additional money that we're adding to Commissioner Cawthorn's motion, is that money actually needed now before we get the chief to address it?
Commissioner Burrell, I don't have the answer to that. I can address it to the author of the motion.
Well, I would think that he would, well, see, since he's the only one that's talked to the chief, I think he would be the person to make that clarification.
Give me 1 moment, and I have Commissioner Jackson and Cawthorn on the board, then I'll call on the author of the motion to clarify on that. Commissioner Jackson, you have the floor.
I'd like to go after, because I have an amendment that I'd like to add, so I'd like to go after all of this.
Okay, Commissioner Cawthorn.
Okay, let me get some clarity and context to what's going on. Commissioner Talaferro and I had a friendly conversation on Sunday that lasted 36 minutes and 27 seconds. And in that discussion, we talked about some additions to this current proposal, this ordinance rather. And I did agree in practicality to go along with friendly amendments. Unbeknownst to me, I did not know that until today, until his amendment, that there was going to be an increase in the amount of money related to the training that we were asking for. And so in as much as I've got a standalone ordinance that's been baked into the minds of people, what we're going to do with it, it would be my preference. Yeah, and I want to go on record that I'm in favor of the increase in the training piece, but I just want to go on record to and ask that if he would let that be a standalone piece to this original ordinance and come back and make it a standalone piece, and we vote on the original ordinance as is today.
I got you. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. Commissioner Talaferro, did you want to, I guess, expand on Commissioner Burrell's point of clarification on the exact amount of 32,000, what that would entail?
I just wanted to make it clear that, with all due respect to Commissioner Cawthorn, I don't want this to be confused with the safe house. We're talking about complete training here and nothing more. I believe I just texted the chief, and Mr. President, if you could give me the telephone number, the chief can call in, but I'm okay with, if necessary, to move this along. I can make this a separate proposal on its own later on if if that works out better. But the $32,000 of Commissioner Burrell was an additional amount that the additional amount was because the entity that had promised them to help them with this training was not able to do so, and I believe it's a church of some sort. But so that's the reason the chief texted me today, and I've been in some real estate stuff, and so I did not get a chance to actually verbally call Commissioner Cawthorn. So I did email him, and so for that I want to publicly apologize for not actually verbally expressing the increase in the dollar amount. But right now, without talking to the chief, I think you all know as much as I do.
So as I'm understanding it, then the $32,000 is not necessarily associated directly with Commissioner Cawthorn's motion. You were just adding it in there because there was some additional training that is needed beside this particular project that Commissioner Cawthorn is putting forth.
Yes, that is correct, Commissioner.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. And Commissioner Talaferro, you still have the floor. As the president, I serve at the pleasure of you guys. You appointed me, so I'd be happy to allow you to have the chief call in, or if you'd like to pull that substitute motion and we stick it on the agenda in 2 weeks, we can do that either. It's up to you. Tell me what you'd rather have.
I tell you what, for simplicity and to move on with all due respects to the chief and the rest of the commissioners, I will be more than happy to go ahead and press on with the way that it's written now with the $50,000. And I'd be delighted and privileged to bring it back before the commission to increase the dollar amount to $32,000, if I may.
And I will retract my second. Thank you, Commissioner Talaferro. I have Commissioner Jackson on the board from previous, and then Commissioner Epperson, and then Johnson.
Yes, I'd just like to offer an amendment that would set aside the safe house funding only if the chief indicates that he needs them, and when he does them, they do them based on the crime stats. They designate them by the crime stats, and I can explain if I get a second on that.
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Burrell. Go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, so I'm not reducing the amount. I'm just saying we need to, because from what I heard the chief last week basically saying is, or 2 weeks ago say is, his priority was not necessarily the safe houses. I like the concept of the safe houses. When I offered myself as an opportunity to serve the citizens of Shreveport, that was a concept in which I put forward was safe houses. And so I think it's a great idea, but what I hear the chief saying is he doesn't have manpower, he doesn't have staffing to be able to implement that right now. And so I don't want us to really just put money out there and force them to use it without it going toward what it needs to be. So my thing is, before they can utilize that portion of the funding, they need to be able to come back and articulate clearly how that's going to be implemented. And, just for conversation, I don't know that I know that when we proposed the plan early this year, some folks was talking about they did not see a proposal. Let's be clear, let's be consistent. There was no proposal here. But I'm not saying that this is a bad idea. I just want to make sure that we are doing the most efficient thing and that we're meeting the needs that the chief has identified for us. So again, I'm not trying to reduce the funding. I'm just saying that before a check is cut or before those funds that have been allocated or identified for safe houses, they need to come back to us with a plan that we approve and agree to and authorize those remaining funds to be dispensed first.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chairman, at some point.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Epperson.
I pass.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson? Nope. Commissioner Taliaferro?
Yes, I'm good with standing up one safe house. And like, again, I did have a chat with the chief, and this would be based on, and I did talk to Commissioner Cawthorn about this as well. This would also be based on utilizing the crime statistical criteria that the chief has, for the locations of the safe houses, regardless of where they are in the city. And I think that may be what Commissioner Jackson was leading to, but
Yes, sir, but that's not in the ordinance right now.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes, sir. So that's what my amendment tries to get some uniformity with.
Understand.
Also conformity with it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Taliaferro. Commissioner Burrell, point of clarification.
Clarification that I needed, Mr. Chairman, based upon the last time we spoke about this project, was that there were actually 3 locations for safe houses, and that this was secondly, that it was a pilot project, and thirdly, the chief, we asked him where were the priorities of the high crime areas, and from what I remember, 2 of the proposals were in high crime areas, but the third one may not have been. Did I understand that correctly?
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. That's going to be probably a Cawthorn question from the author. I'll be voting for Commissioner Jackson's motion first off, because as I understand it, Commissioner Taliaferro, thanks for doing the legwork. It appears that $32,000 is going to go for the training, which will leave about $18,000 left over for the safe house piece.
That's not correct. That's not correct. I'm sorry for the.
Okay.
Well, that's not correct.
Doing the math that Commissioner Talaferro provided, but I agree with Commissioner Jackson in the fact that the chief says that they need the training. I like that he's willing to offer the funding for the training, but get the documentation to show the housing implement before we release the check for that. So I think that's a good idea, Commissioner Jackson.
Well, I'm totally confused now because I understood that 32,000 is not even associated with this project.
No, it's not, Commissioner
Mr. Chair,
Burrell.
can I get clarification to what's going on?
Right. What I'm using, Commissioner Burrell, for the point of clarification is Commissioner Talaferro said he spoke with the chief and that the 32,000 is what additional he wanted to add for training. So if we're going to do training, which Commissioner Cawthorn has added in this original ordinance, then the $50,000 would be broken up to about 32,000 for the training. We're not adding an additional 32. That's what Commissioner Talaferro wanted to do to increase the training. So the initial training of that $50,000, I'm guessing, is going to be about $32,000. What Commissioner Jackson would like to see in his substitute motion is to grant the money, the amendment, but not the piece with the safe houses until we see the documentation to request the second half of the money, which I'm going off of what Commissioner Talaferro said when he spoke with the chief on the training piece. If the training piece is 32,000, that's where I'm getting the 18 grand from, subtracting the 32 from the 50. We're just referring to the 50 grand, not the addition of the 32 on top of the 50.
But Mr. President, are you saying then the 32,000 that Commissioner Talaferro is talking about is the amount that is also associated with the 50,000? If you transfer, I thought that was in addition.
It was, and he's pulled that motion off, but that figure is just used as basically a placeholder. It could be more, it could be less, but I'm using that figure to illustrate what Commissioner Jackson is stating is he wants us to go ahead and cut the check for the training piece. And then before we pay for the safe house, we get the documentation from the chief of how much that's going to be.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Cawthorn, I have you on the board.
Let me get clarification and context to this. The original ordinance prescribes up to $75,000, $25,000 for safe houses, $50,000 for training. I think where the confusion is coming in when Commissioner Talaferro wants to offer an additional $32,000 in the to my original ordinance. So for clarification, all we're discussing right now is the original ordinance, safe houses, $25,000, $50,000 for training. We will take up Commissioner Talaferro's standalone amendment or ordinance at our next meeting. As it relates to Commissioner Jackson and the safe houses, I have had several conversations with the chief. We have had the discussion as it relates to the safe houses. I know that right now he's short-handed, and we might not be able to utilize 3 safe houses right here, right now. But the chief and I do have a friendly agreement, friendly arrangement that we're going to use the money only if it's needed and only if he could utilize it properly. I don't see the necessity in providing an ordinance amendment to this ordinance, which is something that the chief and I have already worked out. Secondly, I want to convey this, and Commissioner Talaferro and I was speaking earlier today. This tends to happen when you're not directly dealing with the author of the legislation as you want to make changes. And so we've got a little confusion today. But I would admonish everyone around this horseshoe to, as we make recommendations to changes of legislation, let us have a conversation with the author of the legislation. Let's get that person's buy-in because they're leading the charge. And then that way we're not confused about what's going on. So I hope that clarifies what it is we're trying to do.
Mr. Chairman, you said that Commissioner Cawthorn would clarify for me what I asked earlier, and you never allowed him to address it. And that had to do with the conversation that we previously had, that there will be 3 safe houses. That's what I remember our conversation to be. And the 3 safe houses that were named after we asked for the top 5 high crime areas, I remember one of them not being in there. If it's a pilot program for a particular area, then I can understand that. But if we're doing it off of priority in terms of high crime areas, I know that the top high crime areas, at least 2 of the houses were located there. And as I can remember, the two of the other 5 high crime areas was Town South, and I think Queensboro made one of the top 5, if I can remember correctly. If not, then you can clarify me there. I'm for it, regardless of whether it's a pilot project or what, but discussion came about on the top 5 high crime areas, and I know 2 of the houses were not located in the top 5 crime areas.
Commissioner Cawthorn, do you want to expand on that?
Well, with the conversation I had with the chief offline was that he gave, when he talked about the top high crime areas, that was inclusive of all incidents. So that could be the husband and wife get into it, a domestic call, that could be simple burglary, that could be simple robbery, that could be somebody driving over someone's yard and a police unit came out. And our conversation, when I was more trying to get to the areas where we have seen violent crime take place. So if we need to amend the ordinance to add that eccentricity to it, I'm willing to do so. And that's how I came up with the 3 locations for the pilot project. I know that's a different conversation when the chief testified before us, when he just gave the raw data of the incidents of crime in those particular areas. I wanted to pull that out and look at the crime areas that focused and had violent crime incidents.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's the reason why I asked for the clarification, because if it's a pilot program, I have no problem with it. I mean, we do that all the time, and it may not necessarily overlay to the top 5 crime areas. So I have no particular problem with that. I just needed to for my own benefit, to make sure that I understand what you were doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Thank you for the explanation, Commissioner Cawthorn. Commissioner Jackson, I see you on the board.
Yes, I want to be clear. I'm not changing. My goal was not to change the legislation, and I don't think my amendment changed anything in the legislation. I just was going off the last conversation that I had with the chief, was that it was not. He didn't feel like he could effectively get it done, and so to not reduce the amount, just basically say, look, let's give them time. Let's give them the time that they need to put that together, and then before those funds are dispersed. So I was just trying to add that caveat of the language to make that consistent with what the conversation has been. That's my only, like I said, I have no problem with the idea.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make the ordinance consistent with the conversation that has taken place publicly. That's all I'm trying to achieve.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to propose a friendly amendment to Commissioner Cawthorn's original legislation that the safe house funding be contingent or be at the chief's discretion.
That was always the intent.
I understand that. I would just like the legislation to read that.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
The chair will second.
So, point of clarification, Commissioner Atkins.
Yes, sir.
So if the chief decides not to do the safe houses, could that money be shifted around as the additional monies for the training?
I'm fine with that.
Or did I just open up a?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm afraid.
Right.
Let's just keep the legislation as we currently the proposed amendment that I made to Cawthorn's legislation.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to do that though.
It makes sense. Sorry.
Okay,
Commissioner
so
Cawthorn, I wasn't trying to confuse anybody, Commissioner Cawthorn.
Commissioner Watts.
Thank you, sir. I think that this is a very important initiative that we need to holistically support. Anything that's against gun violence or high crimes or violent crimes that are affecting our areas, especially the areas that were initially discussed, which were Moortown area and Cooper Road and Queensboro, Allendale. We know that when most violent crimes happen, those are the areas that those crimes are taking place. And I will support that initiative that will do what needs to be done in those areas in assisting and potentially decreasing those violent crimes. However, I think that we have talked so much around or had so much discussion about where we are in this legislation until I know that Mr. Everson is going to have a hard time saying exactly what motion we're voting on here shortly. But I think that we need to stick to the basics and go back to why this legislation was introduced, and that was to help decrease violent crimes. Anything outside of that, I think that as in respect to the author, if you want to write additional legislation, you should bring that back at a different time. We need to stick to the original axing, the original legislation, and that is what I will be supporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Watts. Vice President Johnson.
I'm calling for the question on all discussion.
Second.
All right. Mr. Everson, roll call vote on call for the question.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Talaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to the last motion that's on the floor. And Commissioner Gage Watts, you are correct. It was a little hard to follow, so I'm going to restate it and y'all let me know if this is not what I have as the current motion on the floor. Is a substitute motion from Commissioner Jackson that was seconded by Commissioner Burrell. Has that been withdrawn?
I thought my motion was the one on the floor.
Well, I thought yours was a friendly amendment, which was accepted by the author. So,
okay.
And mine was just an amendment as well. It was not a motion. It was not a substitute motion. It was just an amendment.
okay. And did the author accept that? It was
No. Mine was amendment. We can do a roll call vote on the amendment.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I thought. Yours was an amendment, which would be a substitute motion. So that's what I have as the first vote to take. Then should that pass, it would pass with that language in it. And Commissioner Atkins's language that he suggested was accepted as a friendly amendment by Commissioner Cawthorn. Am I?
Well, I thought we would have to vote on it as amended.
Well, it would be.
I'll change it to a substitute motion then, if that makes it easier. That's fine.
Mr. Everson, and I have a point of clarification. This is going to take a attorney's opinion, maybe Attorney Fraser Bernstein. It sounds like conflicting. So if we vote on the substitute motion that Commissioner Jackson made, we're get information from the chief notified before he spends the money for the safe houses. If that passes, it sounds like Commissioner Atkins' motion, which is at his discretion, would then cancel out the substitute motion we're about to vote on. Am I correct in thinking that?
Well, I think the problem is that we had a friendly amendment to an original motion made after we already had a substitute motion on the floor.
Right, we shouldn't have happened.
So
I don't technically know what order to take that in.
Well, hey guys, here's how you do it. As the chair, we can't, the friendly motion can't be added to the original motion after the substitute motion is on the floor. So we need to take a vote on Commissioner Atkins' motion, substitute motion, and then we'll vote on Commissioner Jackson's.
Point of clarification, the Commissioner Atkins has a friendly amendment.
Right. He made a friendly amendment after Commissioner Jackson made a substitute motion. So
the substitute motion would have to be voted on first.
Right.
Correct.
And that's Commissioner Jackson's substitute motion. That's what I initially thought. So are we clear that that's what we're voting on is Commissioner Jackson's motion?
Bye.
But I want to be clear on what that is now, since
it is, yes. So his Commissioner Jackson's substitute motion was to only do safe houses if needed and based them
at the chief's discretion. At the chief's discretion.
At the chief's discretion, and based them on crime statistics.
Yes, sir. That's to be consistent with Commissioner Atkins. I think that simplifies it for us. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Is everyone clear?
I'm clear.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just got back. What happened?
We're about to vote, Stormy.
Okay, good. I didn't miss anything. What are we voting on?
We're voting on Stephen's amendment, on Commissioner Jackson's substitute motion that amends Commissioner Cawthorn's original motion to say that if, only safe houses, if the chief thinks they're needed at his discretion and base them on crime statistics.
I thought there was the original. Okay.
So this is
we're just adding it to the language of the ordinance. That's all.
And based on what crime statistics? Just general incidents of violent crime. Now, go ahead with the vote. I'm sorry. Go ahead with the vote.
It needs to be violent crimes. Okay, go ahead with that one. I'm voting on the original. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
No.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
No.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
No.
Commissioner Talaferro.
All right, I need some clarification again. What are we voting on, Jeff?
This is Commissioner Jackson's substitute motion to amend and advance, but changing the language to have, amend and adopt, but have the language that we would only do safe houses at the chief's discretion and base their location on crime statistics.
Violent crime.
Violent crime, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Efferson.
No.
Okay, so that is that motion carries with 8 in support and 4 in opposition. And so that would and as a substitute motion, that moves that forward. So that brings us to the next item that is 5986 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay fund and the amount of $50,000 to increase appropriation for the Pine Hill Road Bridge and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Point of clarification. Mr. Chair, I wanted to make sure that didn't we need to vote on the original?
Yes. Yeah, we do.
I'm sorry, my understanding, and I thought when I restated that, it could have been wrong. There was so many changes going on there.
No, you're good. Stevens got passed, and now we couple it to the original, and the original gets voted on.
No.
We didn't vote on it.
No,
well,
sir.
Well, yeah, you're right. I'm thinking we're going to get it. It sounds like people are going to pass it, but we'll take the vote.
Well, Mr. Chairman, point of clarification, it was a substitute motion, so the substitute motion carries.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was amending and adopting. So
I tried to do the amendment, but everybody insisted on the substitute, so I made it a substitute motion. So
yeah, now, yeah, you're right.
I tried to do it as an amendment.
Commissioner's right. I saw Henry was going to clarify, but Henry's like, yeah, they're right. So was Todd. I saw Todd's crinkled up forehead wondering, wait a minute, we need to vote on that. But now you guys are right. All right,
I did
Mr.
try to do
Everson.
it as an amendment. Let the record reflect. I did try to do it as an amendment.
For all the confusion, I think we got it out correct. I think it's there.
We did. Okay. Well, next item, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, sorry, that's ordinance number 5986 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay fund in the amount of $50,000 to increase appropriation for the Pine Hill Road Bridge and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hopkins, second by Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Hopkins, would you like to speak on that motion?
No, sir.
Okay. I see no commissioners on the board. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries unanimously with 12 in support and none in opposition. And that brings us to our next section, zoning ordinances for introduction by title. We do not have any today. Our next item, I'm sorry, we do. We have introduction of number 6011 of 2020 in relation to zoning case 20-6SP, an ordinance to amend volume 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo as amended, the Caddo Parish Unified Development Code by amending the zoning property located on the southeast side of Florno Lucas Road, approximately 530 feet northeast of First Street, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from R17 Single Family Residential District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. We also have ordinance number 6012 of 2020 in relation to zoning case 20-8-P, an ordinance to amend volume 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo as amended, the Caddo Parish Unified Development Code by amending the zoning of property located on the southwest corner of Mansfield Road and Keithville Kingston Road, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from RA Rural Agricultural District to C3 General Commercial District, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. And the third zoning item that we have today is the introduction of ordinance number 6013 of 2020. It's in relation to zoning case 20-10-P, and it reads an ordinance to amend volume 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo as amended, Caddo Parish Unified Development Code by amending the zoning of property located on the northeast corner of Florno Lucas Road and Uri Drive, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from RA Rural Agriculture District to IMU Industrial Mixed Use District, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. As we are continuing on with introduction of ordinances by title, the next one is introducing ordinance number 6014 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay and oil and gas fund in the amount of $750,000 to provide an appropriation for the construction and improvement of Greenwood water lines and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. And then our next one is ordinance number 6010 of 2020. That's an ordinance adopting the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Shreve Memorial Library for the year 2021. And that brings us to work session minutes, which we don't have today. Resolutions, we do have one resolution today, and that is resolution number 71 that you added to your agenda earlier today. That is a resolution to relocate the polling place for precincts 44 and 111 from Shreveport Job Corps Center at 2800 West College Street from Shreveport, Louisiana, 71109 to Bilberry Park Community Center at 1902 Alabama Street in Shreveport, Louisiana, 71109, and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
So moved. All right, got a motion by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Hawthorne.
Me.
And I got
Wasn't me.
Commissioner Epperson on the board. Commissioner Epperson, you want to speak on that motion?
I'm down for being the case.
Oh, okay. I see no one on the board for this motion unless Vice President, did you want to speak on this motion?
Yes, did he also mention precinct 111?
Yes.
Mr. Everson?
Okay,
Yes.
because I thought precinct 111 was already moved back to Billberry, but okay.
Mr. Chairman, clarification.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Burrell.
I understand that there were two precincts that were at Job Corps, but what I'm understanding, Commissioner Johnson is saying that one was already back at Billberry. I know at one time Billberry was a site, but I thought they moved both of them, or they moved the one at Billberry over to Job Corps when we were doing construction of the facility over there, the new park. So we need to be clear on what we're actually moving. Are we moving two, or are we actually moving one?
I requested that I requested 111 go back to Billberry once they finish the construction. Now, whether y'all did it or not, I don't know, but that's what I requested.
Yeah.
Well, when I spoke with Erica, when she called, it was my understanding from what I remembered that there were two precincts that were in Job Corps at this point. They were moving both. So I don't know. There may be some confusion.
Okay, that's fine. We'll work it out.
Just to clarify, I believe what I'm reading here, and Henry's on the line too, but what I'm reading here looks like there were two. They are precinct 111 and precinct 44. And it sounds like Commissioner Johnson had asked for 111 to be moved. I'm gathering that this is moving it in the same way, and that may be a duplicate.
Same location, yes.
Yeah. It has the same effect, essentially.
That's fine. Let's vote on it so we can go.
Okay. Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage-Watts. Commissioner
Yes.
Gage-Watts? Thank
Yes.
you. Commissioner Talaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, and also, if I could, it looks like we had a printing mistake. That is actually resolution number 74 of 2020. It looks like it showed up as 71, and I read it wrong. However, in our notes, we do have 74. So we'll make that correction noted, but just wanted to make sure and clarify that. And that does pass unanimously with 12 in support and none in opposition. And that brings us to communiques and committee reports. Well, we have old business and new business, none of which we don't have any on the agenda, and then communiques and committee reports.
All right, Commissioner Jackson.
I think Epperson was first.
Oh, I thought you were on there. Thanks for doing that.
I'm after him. Yeah, I'm after him.
Epperson.
Yes, the flag placement for Veterans Day at the Northwest Louisiana Veterans Cemetery will be November the 6th at 1 p.m. The flag pickup will be November the 12th, the day after Veterans Day at 1 p.m. Also, the wreath placement for Christmas at the Northwest Louisiana Veterans Cemetery will be December 11th, 2020 at 1 o'clock p.m. The wreath pickup will be January 4th, 2021 at 1 o'clock p.m. Due to several factors this year, there's a shortage of wreaths. There will not be individual wreaths placed on graves. Instead, we will do a large wreath on each garden. Families and volunteers can then place a bow on the large wreath in honor of a loved one. The flags, the wreath, and the bows will be provided. All those participating must wear a mask and practice social distancing. And always remember, you can visit your loved one at any time, 24/7, 365 at the Northwest Louisiana Veterans Cemetery. The gates never close. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I want to encourage everybody to get out and exercise their right to vote. We still have early voting going on through Tuesday. If you get in line before 7 p.m., they will allow you to vote. No voting is allowed on Sundays. I've been very amazed by our turnout so far, and we also want to encourage folks to remember that we still have an election on November 3rd. So make sure that that is an opportunity. We have some important millages on the ballot for Caddo Parish, and we hadn't talked much about it, but we want to make sure that we get out and support the things that we have a health unit, and we have animal services being supported by that millage, and it's important for voters to get out and exercise their right. Not telling you which way to vote, but just telling you to get out and exercise your right to vote. And when we don't vote, we concede our power and our voice to others who do. Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir.
If we could, and I don't know if y'all already have, and let me know if you already have. I met with a small group of workers from Libby Glass, and please feel free to include any and everybody who needs to be involved with this. Do you remember when me, yourself, at that time, Mayor Glover, Scott Martinez, Dan Eibel, Charles Grubb, who else was a part of that trek up to Toledo? The two guys from LED went up to LED.
State, yes.
Economic development. Have we had a summit like that since Libby announced the closing of the plant?
Yes, sir, we had.
Y'all been up to Toledo since then?
Not to Toledo. We met them at the Libby plant here about a month and a half ago.
Okay, was LED involved?
No, sir. Yes, so they had a rep in the room. It was Representative Sam Jenkins, Commissioner Johnson, and myself went from the parish.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They have some folks from Libby Glass. They have persons from the state LED office there as well, and the NLED.
Okay. If we could, Dr. Wilson, start one, maybe see how we can get a coordinated pitch. I don't know if there's anything that can be done. I know the folks over at Libby are asking. Like I said, I met with about five individuals on a Zoom call on Monday, and they seem to think that there's something that can be done to save it. I told them that I would make every effort to ask and request that we do that.
Yes, sir.
And so if we could have a roundtable chat with them, I don't know if there's any restructuring of their pilot with the IDB that could take place, or the restructuring of their incentives with the state that can take. But if we can do that, I definitely would appreciate it. Or if we could maybe reach out to Miss Bonnie Moore to start talking about how to help those employees transition. I know they have resources available at community development that allows and helps individuals when they have those type of major layoffs take place, sort of transition. That we've got another good month in between now and I think the time that they plan to actually downsize the plant or close the plant. So if we could work with Miss Bonnie Moore to address that, and whatever comes of it, if we could post that on our webpage so that I can, be able to give citizens a link or something to, one, what all took place, what was our response to that, but two, how can they get help? Because, I think people understand that circumstances and situations happen, but they also want to know that, we've taken all of the necessary due diligence. And I'm definitely not saying we haven't. I just want to be able to put things in folks' hands to show that, this was our response, and this is how they came back. And here are ways that you can transition going forward if there's nothing that we can do. So if we could do that and let me know if there's anything that I could do to help, or anything anybody on this body can do to help with that particular issue. So
Commissioner
LED has a job fair scheduled for those employees coming up pretty soon.
What say, Dr. Wilson?
Yeah, I just want to let you know Well, go ahead, Commissioner Johnson.
Oh, my bad. I was just letting you know that LED has a job fair coming up for those employees
Okay.
as well.
Great.
Yeah.
If somebody can get that information out to us, if somebody can get that out to us, that would be great. So we can start sharing it with people and passing it around. So yes.
Yeah. And also, Commissioner Jackson, the Industrial Development Board is looking at ways that we can restructure the pilot deal that they have so that they can try to keep the distribution center open. So that's currently in the works already. They have several discussions on that. And I just received a document today that I sent out to the president and vice president concerning the levy plant and the timetable. I'll make sure I send you and others a copy as well.
Yeah. And like I say, if we can just get something, maybe a one pager or something that we can link to the web page to say, response to Libby Glass or something like that, what we're doing, so that folks know that, we are not just sitting at home on a Zoom call. There have been responses, and here are things, and maybe even link the resources to the job fair. Because I'll be honest with you, on that, when I had the Zoom call with them, all I could tell them was we'll look into it and just kind of hear them out and then look into it. So I appreciate your due diligence. Also, just want to shout out again your staff for their work on the CARES Act funding. If you could get us a list of what we all spend and what was reimbursed, and just update us on that. Like I said, it doesn't have to be this week or anything. Just as soon as you can, just get us that information to us so that citizens will know how Caddo Parish responded to COVID-19. Also, Doc, if y'all could keep me up to date on those 3 issues that we discussed with Animal Services with regard to the 1, joining up with the environmental court, but 2, the dogs being not on the leash, and 3, how can we I guess you would say, take those animals that are at large or whatever, and then hold them until the court date is over. So if y'all could update us on that at the next meeting, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Hopkins.
Dr. Wilson, I just wanted to take a few minutes and let you know that I've received quite a few Facebook messages and calls over the last few days, and people have been pleasantly happy with the way the lines are moving at the early voting. We know everybody's experience is different, and there are some people that have not had a good experience, and that's in everything we do. But the people that have called and made contact with me were very pleased with the way the lines moved, and they were very pleased with what the administration and facilities maintenance have done to try to help the citizens out there. And it looks like the registrar has done everything he could to make it an experience that was good for everyone. I also wanted to thank Chuck Wilson. Mr. Wilson has been doing a tremendous job on property standards up in North Caddo Parish. And whoever he's using and the way he's doing the program, he is making a difference. I can drive through a couple different neighborhoods and see the hard work and the fine work they're doing. And I just wanted you to know that Public Works and Chuck Wilson are doing a great job. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll pass that on, sir.
Thanks, Commissioner Hopkins. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Mr. Everson, I have no other commissioners under communiques.
All right, that brings us to citizens' comments, late arrivals. We don't have any on the line right now, but I'll give that number out one more time. That's 318-226-6596.
No calls?
Doesn't look like
Move
any
to
calls.
adjourn.
Move
to adjourn.
All right, commissioners, have a great weekend.
I'll take care.
Bye, guys.